Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and welcome back to the channel. This is the last mock draft for the 12-team full PPR. So we are in the 12th spot, of course. Hopefully you guys checked out all the other spots of our mock draft videos. And of course, there's going to be even more content coming right before the NFL season kicks off. So make sure you guys check it out. So we are in the 12th spot of the final mock draft video for this series. Now, of course, I will have some other series. We've got Superflex, 2 quarterback, and even maybe some 10-team leagues as well to get you guys ready for your draft that is coming up. You're probably drafting next weekend, maybe even the weekend after that. And of course, the NFL season is just about here. Hope you guys got some great games out of the preseason. But let's go talk about what we're talking here. Look, here's my biggest thing with the 12th spot of a 12-team league. It's kind of crazy, but in the last couple of years, the team in the 12th spot has actually a little bit of an advantage when it comes to winning. Part of it is your first 2 round picks are crucial when it comes to obviously having some success. And that can be spoken about every single spot, no matter if you're in the first spot or the 12th spot. But this particular spot seems to be a really good spot for people who have had the ability to win. And so let's talk about players that I am going after. And of course, we'll talk about some players that maybe have fallen. Now in the 12th spot, you can go either way, running back or wide receiver. And realistically for me, I will always get a running back out of the first 2 rounds. Unless your league mates just draft heavy in the running back position, then of course you can go the hero wide receiver route. I, again, will always try to get a running back in the first 2 rounds because you want to have a position like that filled as much as you can. Now, when you're looking at this mock draft here, you see Barkley go off, Chase, Bijan. St. Brown's a little bit of a curiosity. St. Brown at the 4th spot's kind of a little bit of a reach, in my opinion. And then you see obviously a lot of the players. Now, Christian McCaffrey, this is the first mock draft I have done, and I've done plenty where Christian McCaffrey went in the first round. He is typically falling in the mid second round, maybe early second round, but usually in the mid. So to see him this early is kind of a surprise. So based off of that and what the players are available here, it's hard not to go the hero running back strategy. Yes, I absolutely want a wide receiver, and it is actually a really good strategy to split both wide receiver and running back because realistically, once I do that 2.1 round, I am going to be in a large stretch before I get there. But the same thing can be said with the running back. So in this case, I'm going to go Ashton Jeanty, because I love where he's at. I like the offense he's in. Nice little easy schedule so far. I would say middle of the pack when it comes to the defenses he's going to face going forward. And then I will go with the old veteran in Derrick Henry. You could also go Devon Achane. Now Achane has got a little bit of a soft tissue injury that's going on so far this preseason. That does scare me a little bit with the news that is going on because, again, anything with a soft tissue injury, that can sometimes linger throughout the season, and you don't want to risk that. So I would take Derrick Henry over Achane. Again, nothing wrong with Achane at all. I still like him, but I just based off of the news lately. Now you see some of the quarterbacks again. There's nothing new there. You see the top rushing quarterbacks go. You see a tight end here or there. And then again, a lot of the wide receivers. So now looking at this roster where I've got both my running backs who can be RB1 this season. Now I don't necessarily need to draft the running back position. I can always go heavy in the wide receiver or other spots. Now look at the options here. I could go tight end where I could get maybe a George Kittle, who's a great option. I can go maybe another running back if you want to fill that flex. Or, of course, you can go wide receiver. Now, when you look at the wide receiver spot, because I didn't take one early, you're not giving top 10 wide receivers. So you're going to get receivers that have maybe top 15 potential. So I'm going to grab Mike Evans here, the veteran who has been consistent throughout his career. Again, a top 20 fantasy wide receiver every single year. And even though he's up there in age, and I do like the rookie that's coming out, I still think Baker Mayfield will feed him. And again, he's going to get plenty of options his way. Now, this is where I can change my strategy here. Strategy could be going tight end, right? Tight end position is a position that is, I would say right now, there's probably 4 or 5 tight ends I feel really, really good about, and I don't mind taking a little early. Otherwise, I'm going to go streamer tight end a little bit later in the draft. And looking at here, I don't love the wide receivers in this particular spot. I'm not going to reach per se, and I could get my flex play. Maybe I get a Hampton or a Kamara or something like that. But I'm actually going to go the tight end route. I like getting Kittle here, Mike Evans, and then again, Derrick Derrick Henry, and Ashton Jeanty. I feel really good about that roster so far because, again, I'm getting really good players at their position. Sure, would you have loved a wide receiver one here and those? Yeah, absolutely. But I like where I'm at there because there's a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. And that's kind of where running back is so hard to kind of go through. Now, looking at the spots here, wide receivers again. Zay Flowers, George Pickens. You can get players like Travis Hunter if you want to go there. Jaylen Waddle. A lot of really good options as the wide receiver too. And looking at these options, I know some of you guys have said in the comments you're not super in love with Zay Flowers. I like Zay Flowers. I understand there's always that risk of lack of targets his way, but realistically, he is the number one option when it comes to the passing game. It's not Mark Andrews anymore. I know likely he's kind of obviously gone, really increasing his snaps and touches and opportunities. And of course, you've got Bateman, who I really like as well. You got George Pickens in a new offense who might actually end up being a star for Dallas. And of course, I can go running back again. I get RJ Harvey. Maybe I can go and get an Aaron Jones, like a nice little veteran there. But looking at the options that I have here, I'm going to go and get Zay Flowers. I continue to like him as a nice option. Yeah, he's my wide receiver too, but I still really like him. He's going to get plenty of opportunities there. Travis Hunter and, again, Harvey are some really similar options that I really like. I like both of them, but I'm going to go Jaylen Waddle. Hear me out with Jaylen Waddle. Yes, he's been kind of forgotten. The offense was kind of shaky last year. There was the quarterback situation again with Tua and injuries. Tyreek Hill the whole offense just was kind of scary to deal with. And there's some remnants of that going into this season. So there is some scary after effects where, yeah, the offense is starting to get a little bit predictable. McDaniels isn't as creative as we all thought he was. He does show signs of it, and I still think he can. And I like Waddle. I think Waddle ends up being the better wide receiver this upcoming season compared to Tyreek Hill. Hill's got some injuries that he's lingering going in the offseason. He's lost a little bit of a step. And being that Waddle's a little bit bigger guy and he's still super fast, I like Waddle a little bit more there. So, again, I got my starting essentially offense. I don't have my quarterback. And again, you guys, if you watched any of my videos, know quarterback is something that I can get a little bit later and feel really good about without having to spend too much on the draft capital. And of course, now I've got to get bench. Now I'm good. And the bench strategy, and this is my opinion, and this is where I feel like the strategy always has worked for me, is don't reach for position, get the best player available at that particular time. And so when you look at options like this, you've got Evan Ingram, great tight end, don't necessarily need him. Deebo Samuel, yes, I still like him. I think he's going to be valuable for the Commanders. I like that offense. You got Tyrone Tracy, a nice little flex play at the running back position, who is, again, the starting running back right now. Maybe Travis Etienne. I know a lot of people are unsure what's going to happen with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Etienne could actually end up being a star. He's got a nice soft schedule coming up this upcoming season. And again, he's an afterthought because everyone thinks that Bigsby is going to end up being the guy. And that's possible. I don't necessarily see that. But in my case, I'm going to go Tyrone Tracy here because I think he's a nice little flex play, nice little backup running back to help me out when, bye weeks and things like that, or maybe particular matchups. I could put him in the flex. And then looking at the rest of this, as far as the options, I actually am going to go Matthew Golden. I know I didn't mention him quickly, but I like Matthew Golden going into this Packers offense. I think that they drafted him high for a reason. I think they really want to implement him. I know they talk about in the Packers organization, there's no wide receiver one. I think they truly want one. They just haven't said it because I get it. You're not trying to dismiss the talent that you have. Jalen, Reed, you've got Dobbs, you've got Christian Watson, who's got the injury concerns. You've got some really great options, but I think Matthew Golden was brought in to be but the potential wide receiver one there. So looking at these options as far as filling up the rest of my bench, I've got 3 and I've got the quarterback. Now looking at the quarterback position, you start to see a lot of the quarterbacks going. Goff and Nix and Murray and things like that. And so I am going to get my quarterback here. And looking at the options here, I really like Dak Prescott. I've talked about him multiple times. I think also CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams can also be some really nice studs that end up being some surprisingly top 10 finishes. I really like all 3 of those quarterbacks, but I like Dak Prescott just a little bit more. I think there's going to be a lack of running game is going to force Dak Prescott in that offense to pass a lot, giving him, and again, your fantasy team opportunities. And looking at some of these players here, I like Jordan Mason, but again, I'm not super sold on him. I love Josh Downs, even though the quarterback situation is still uncertain when it comes to the Colts. I'm sure that will be announced soon. Zach Charbonnet is a great option as far as, again, a filler. I like Josh Downs, so I'm going to go his route there. I think Josh Downs is in a really good spot. He's done a really good job for the Indianapolis Colts, even though they've got Michael Pittman, they've got Adonai Mitchell, you've got Alec Pierce, a lot of really good options, but I think Josh Downs is the one that's going to probably end up being the best option when it comes to the Colts offense. So with that said, I've got the kicker and defense, and I got 2 more bench plays. Now, again, watching my videos, I don't go kicker or defense unless I absolutely need to. In your drafts, when you start doing it with your league mates, you know your league mates better than I do. And you may have to go a little bit sooner and then get your depth a little bit later. But in my case, I'm not going to go to that in this type of mock draft because it's not something that is of a big need. I am going to obviously get backups. And looking at the options here, I am going to get not Nick Chubb, sorry. I'm going to get a running back here and a wide receiver. I want to leave at least with one more. And looking at options, you got Najee Harris, Nick Chubb. You've got, possibly Bigsby, maybe Trey Harris, some really good options, Tajay Spears. I am going to go Najee Harris. I know there's obviously the concern with his injury in his eye. Not a whole lot's talked about right now. He's currently, practicing, but they haven't really used him at all, even though they've got Hampton as well. And I do like Hampton. I think he's in a good spot. And I'm going to get a wide receiver. You could also go the tight end position. I think that for me, a backup tight end in a non-premium tight end league, it's not necessarily there. I'm going to always have the ability to obviously pick them up throughout the season. And looking at the options here, Shaheed's a really good option. Burden, the rookie, I'm not really sure where he's going to play in this lineup. I like Bateman. You guys have seen me talk about him. And then you've got the Las Vegas Raiders, options. Of these options, I think Shaheed is the biggest upside when it comes to the players there. Even though they did add Brandon Cooks in the offseason, I think Shaheed obviously still is the wide receiver too outside of Olave. And who knows how this offense is going to play out. No quarterback has been announced. We'll see how it goes, but Shaheed's a nice little depth piece there. Obviously, with that said, on the last 2 picks, I'm going to get my kicker and defense. And again, these are players you can obviously stream throughout the season. Maybe you want to have them, pick one here and there. You can do however you like. Looking at the options here, you can't go wrong with any of these kickers. Cam Little, Fairbairn, Bass, Loop, all great options. Looking at the schedule and offense and things like that and the consistency, I think Fairbairn or Little are really good options. I think both of them have the ability to get down the field and possibly in some teams, maybe don't necessarily finish in the red zone. I'm going to go take the risk on the Cam Little. Really great kicker. Obviously, he hit that bomb in the preseason, and everyone went crazy for him. I had plenty of comments asking about him, but I like Little there. And then, of course, looking at the defense, the Kansas City Chiefs cannot pass them up. Great defense. They have been that way, and which is what's helped them get to the Super Bowl. It has not actually been always the offense. The defense is underrated and has been amazing, and I will continue to pick the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole. So that is the draft for my 12th spot of this mock draft. If you guys have any questions, of course, hit me in the comments and let's talk about it. All right, so that was the mock draft for the 12th spot of a 12-team full PPR league. Of course, there will be more videos coming out to do other types of formats, 10-team, 2-quarterback, Superflex, whatever that may be. You hit me up in the comments. I'd love to have some options to get you guys some videos. I'm not going to do the full 12, but I will do some different types of formats to help you guys out. And of course, I'll be pushing out some Dynasty content. And then before you know it, my start and sit videos will be out there to help you guys with your week 1 lineup. So again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll check you guys out next time.